I'm excited to present to you all at FSI for part of your seminar series. I've known Dr. Esther Beltran for a long time, almost a decade now. She's been a great supporter of my professional development, so thank you, Esther, for inviting me. And thank you, Dr. Britt and staff, Ashley, for organizing. Also, thanks to Ray Lugo and Patty Sherba for their support and encouragement in my pursuing this incredible research adventure. First, I'll start with an overview of the High Seas program and some of our mission goals. Then the crew and I will give you a tour of our habitat. After that, I'll dig a little deeper into some of our research tasks and what we're up to on a typical day on Mars. Then I'll show you more about my research and conclude with some of the benefits and challenges of being part of this mission. As many of you know, it takes about 8 to 10 months to travel to Mars. Or you can just take a 12-hour flight to Hawaii. High Seas, the Hawaii Space Exploration and Analog Simulation, is a series of NASA-funded missions that are operated by the University of Hawaii. The goal of these missions is to study the biological, psychological, and social impacts of being in isolation and confinement for the long duration of a Mars mission. The Mars habitat is located on the Big Island at about 8,000 feet elevation on Mauna Loa. Here there's a volcanic terrain that is very similar to what it would be like on Mars. We're surrounded by lava features and no animal or plant life, so it's a very still landscape that's never changing in this very remote area. Here you can see the habitat with Mauna Kea in the distance. We have a beautiful view, and we go out exploring this terrain with our geology tasks. Our habitat runs on solar power primarily, and then we also have hydrogen backups and gas generators. We have a shelf-stable food supply, so canned food, freeze-dried food, dehydrated vegetables and meats. The other aspect of our mission is the communication, which mimics what it would be like to be the wide distance from Earth and Mars. All of our communications are delayed 20 minutes on the way there and the way back. Well, let's take a look inside, shall we? What's the band called?
Oh, man,
Fake band on fake Mars.
Here I am standing in the habitat airlock. This is where we simulate decompression before we go out on EVAs. This is also where we store our spacesuits. We have 5 of these green hazmat suits, and then we also have the one white MXC suit, which is a bit better of a simulant than the green suits. This is also the brightest spot in the hab, so people sit here on sunny days and read or work, enjoy the light. It's the one place we can grow plants without artificial light. Now we're going to head into the CCAN, which is the storage area and workshop. We're pretty much on our own in terms of repairing things, so this is where we work on stuff like that. We have the electrical system for the hab. We have 2 10 kilowatt hour lithium iron sulfate batteries, which provide all of our power. They get charged by the solar panels during the day, and then we run off them at night. Then there's inverters and other systems to convert all the electricity to a form we can use. On the other wall, we have all our food. Some of this gets resupplied during the course of the mission, and some of it was the total supply for the 8 months. Up on the roof of the CCAN, the solar hot water heater, where we get all our hot water. So if it's been a cloudy day, we don't have any hot water.
Here we are at the upstairs of the hab. This is where our bedrooms and one of the bathrooms are. On our doors, I don't know if you can see, but we have our call signs that we call each other on our EVAs. So I'm going to show you the bedrooms. There's kind of 2 configurations we have made up for it. So this is Neil's room, and he's got the bed along here. And then it's pretty tiny, as you can see. We've got a small desk, small chair that also doubles as storage, and just the one shelf. We keep our laundry and clothes and stuff under our beds. And then I'll show you my room, which is the other configuration. So So here is the other way we have our rooms, with the bed along the back, and yeah, my desk, small chair, shelf. And then next to me we have the upstairs bathroom. So, yep, these are the composting toilets. No water use. It does have like a heater and a fan, so all the fumes get exhausted out of the hab. The shower and everything is downstairs, so we'll take a look at that in a moment. Hi, here we are in the downstairs bathroom of the hab. We have another composting toilet. We have our shower, sink stuff. So we do have a bit of water restriction while we're here. All our water comes from a storage tank outside that periodically gets filled, but we want to be conservative. So right here you can see on the wall we've got our shower schedule where we kind of track everyone's usage of the shower. We also have this other schedule down here. This is for the toilet maintenance. The composting toilets take a fair bit of maintenance, and we don't want to overload them, so whoever's first is in charge of rotating the drum of compost every week, and then we track when we have to like empty it out. This is our laundry area. We've got a washer and dryer. I don't tend to use the dryer because it uses a lot of electricity, which we don't have a lot of on many days, but people can use it if it's like a sunny day and we have extra power to burn, then you can use the dryer. And yeah, washing machine, everyone gets one load of laundry about every 1 to 2 weeks, and again, to spare water. So here we are in the telemetry room. So this is where all the connections to all the sensors around the hab are made, and then we can check on our computers like what the battery status is, what the water level is, what the temperature is, and control everything using Uela. We also have the computer for the NASA experiments that have the cameras around the hab that are watching us, so everything's backed up back in this room as well.
Here I am in the High Seas kitchen. It's really the heart and soul of our mission, and it was one of the primary goals of the first mission. We bake in a toaster oven actually, which is a little different. Here you can see we make fresh bread ourselves, since we only have shelf-stable ingredients. We cook on hot plates and induction plates. Zach has some gumbo going right now. We have a microwave, a rice cooker, and a mini fridge and mini freezer. We also make coffee in the mornings, and we use the kettle often for tea as well, and also to rehydrate our ingredients. So here, for example, is the green and red bell pepper. So they're just dried, diced pepper, and then we put hot water and soak them for a little while to rehydrate. A lot of vegetables here, then our flours for baking. And on this side we have like one of each of our meats. So we have sausage, beef, chicken, turkey, and even ham. And dairy products, so our milk, sour cream, and goat's milk powder. And then lots of sugar and some snacks. So we're pretty well stocked. We're definitely eating well here.
Welcome to our dining room. This is where we eat. We typically have a dinner here as a crew. As you can see, we have a table set up. As far as what we eat, we've had various dishes from different countries and cultures. For example, we've had Italian nights, we've had Japanese nights, Australian nights, Russian, Hungarian, pizza nights, sushi nights, you name it. We've pretty much covered a lot of stuff. Besides dinners, we also make excellent desserts. We've had cakes, we've had brownies, we've had cookies, we've had flan, we've had cheesecakes, you name it. Again, we've done it all. We've done pies on Pie Day. And here we're looking at our cooking schedule. Since I mentioned we have dinner every night here, someone is responsible for that meal for the day. For each meal we have a main chef here, a sous chef that'll be assisting that person, and 2 cleaners. And you know, it's very flexible. Sometimes we switch around if we need to, if someone's not feeling well and whatnot. But basically this is a schedule that works for everyone, and it looks like we always have at least one day of leftovers.
Just like Alan said, this is not only the workout room, it's also the dining room, it's also the board game room. We exercise a lot as a group together, so we can fit all of our yoga mats down at the same time. We can all be working out, doing the same thing at the same time as well. And on sunny days it's nice because you can get on the treadmill and you know, you're kind of going for a walk, you can see outside and it's kind of a pretty landscape. But when it's cloudy outside, we don't have any energy to spare on the treadmill, so we have to use a stationary bike. is the largest room in the Hab, and we use it to work, as you can see Martha and Zach over here. We have plants on our desks, and this is our fish blast-off the rocket boots. This is my station where I do robotics and anything else that I happen to be working on at the time. This is Zach's 3D printer right here for some of his research, as well as modeling some game parts and things like that that are always useful. Here's Martha and Jocelyn's station, and then here we have kind of our print station. This is our unblocked computer for if we do need emergency contact that isn't delayed, we can go on that computer and that just has instant internet access. One of the things that our 3D printer has made, you've seen us all wearing our badges. They have to be charged every night. And these are some handy dandy little charging stations that our 3D printers have made us. The other thing we have is a telescope. So this is a project that Neil's been working on, doing some astrophotography.
So here we are in the High Seas laboratory, and as you can see, it's pretty small, but we've got a lot of equipment in here that you would see in a normal lab. I do environmental monitoring of our water and our air quality here, and I do all my testing here in the lab. And Martha's actually got her garden here, her indoor garden, which is rocking and rolling. We have some LED lights on loan to us from Kennedy Space Center, which is pretty sweet. Yeah, we have fresh food every once in a while. We just had an actual tomato the other night for dinner, which was amazing, grown right here from seeds in Martha's indoor garden. So yeah, that's about all that's going on in here, but it's pretty awesome.
Now that you've learned about our environment, let's talk about a typical day on Mars. What are we doing here? Well, it starts out first a lot like earthly life. We wake up between 7 to 9 a.m., have breakfast, coffee, check some emails, just get the day rolling. We also have morning surveys, and then after that we can start working on our personal research, or we can go out for EVAs. I'll talk more about the EVAs and research later. Then in the afternoon we have to start cooking because the sun is out and bright and producing enough energy to run our oven and other appliances that we need. After the cooking is finished, we'll typically have an afternoon workout together. And then after workouts we have dinner. All of us sit down together for dinner every night. And then afterwards sometimes we'll have a social activity or just go back to working on our personal research. And then of course before bed we have a couple more surveys to complete before the next day. These surveys that we're completing come from researchers at multiple universities. I'll just briefly go through them with a quick overview of each one and what they're asking us. So the Monday morning dyad survey. This is from researchers at Johns Hopkins, and it's studying the relationship strength between every crew member. So each time we answer how we're feeling about our relationship with each crew member, what type of relationship, is it friendly, professional, avoidant, romantic even. And then we move on to the event sampling survey, which is from MSU, and this is one that we take throughout the day. And just like it says, we sample events and who we're interacting with, what kind of task, and how satisfied we are with those interactions. We also have a survey about our leadership. It asks mainly about our commander, but it also asks how much we rely on each of the crew members for their leadership, how effective they are, and then also about our knowledge areas and how they overlap or how they are distinct and necessary for the completion of our mission. We also have journaling that we do 3 times per week, and this is being analyzed through text analytics by a company called SIFT, the Smart Information Flow Technologies. I mentioned we have surveys before bed. These last surveys are from Cornell and Michigan State. The Michigan State survey is much like the event sampling. It just asks about how satisfied we are with our interactions. And Cornell is very involved in the food for this mission, so it also asks about how much we're eating and if we're feeling energized, if we're having any stomach upset, and then also our mood. So are we feeling interested and motivated, or are we stressed and discouraged? Those type of questions at the end of the day as well. We have behavioral tasks in the afternoon. One of these is from Johns Hopkins, and it's called the TPT task, or Team Performance Task. It's basically a video game that balances both our individual interests with our team interests. So it's quantifying how collaborative we are and how competitive we are. Another task comes from Michigan State, and it's called the Curiosity Task. This is basically an interactive negotiating task. So what we're doing is pretending that we're exploring Mars and trying to decide on which site to explore next. We each have an individual objective that we have to balance with each other and coming up with the decision on where to explore next. Every other Friday evening, at the end of the night when we're feeling the most fatigued, we do cognitive testing. This is a series of tasks that are measuring our cognitive performance on pattern recognition, response timing, as well as memory tasks. Throughout the mission, we also have a psychological aid available to us. This is called the Virtual Space Station. There are multiple modules for learning about conflict resolution and stress management, as well as treatments for dealing with depression. One of our other responsibilities are our EVAs. These are in 3 main categories: the geology tasks, our maintenance EVAs, and some for fun or outreach, and photography. With the geology tasks, they're assigned every 2 weeks, and they have a goal of exploring something around the volcanic terrain. Look at different features and hypothesize how they evolved and what kind of eruption resulted in its formation. The maintenance EVAs are often for checking our water levels or looking at our sensors and validating if those are working correctly. We also sometimes have to do installations or repairs and refill our generator from time to time. Photography or outreach EVAs can be the most fun. Recently I went out and hit the first golf ball on simulated Mars. The rest of the week we're really focused on research, so let's talk a bit about that. Commander Martha is working on a gardening project, so this is our only source of fresh food. She's growing a wide array of herbs and vegetables, all in artificial light. Sophie's our executive officer, so she works a lot on outreach projects, and they often involve robotics, her area of research. So she's also helped some of the other crewmates when getting data from Arduino sensors. We also rely a lot on Zach, the 3D printing guru. He's also the chief engineer on the mission. He's made replacement parts to fix and maintain different things around the hab. And he's also made some more fun, interesting things, such as the star upon our Christmas tree. Alan's an aerospace engineer. He's been working on modeling some astronomy events from the perspective of what it would look like on Mars. Neil's our chief medic and crew microbiologist. He's monitoring our water and also looking at our microbiomes, so how our microbial populations are changing based on our diet and our isolation and confinement here. And I'm the crew chief scientist. My research is looking at our health and stress states, how to manage them better, and how they change throughout the mission. There are many impacts on our health. One would be the environmental factors. Another is our lifestyle choices. And a third is our physiology. So let's dive into each one of these separately, starting with the environmental factors. With the physical environment, we can look to weather or temperature as clues into what could be stressors on the environment. The weather not only can affect our physical health, such as in the case of a natural disaster or a hurricane, but it also has an impact on our daily lives. Since we rely on solar power, it determines the amount of energy we're able to consume in our daily activities. One example that comes to mind is we just had a few gray weeks recently. There was little sun and cloudy coverage almost every day for 2 or 3 weeks straight. With this, it was also cold and we didn't have enough power for heating, so this is definitely a stressor. In addition, we can look to sleep to see if our sleep is being disturbed by different light and dark cycles, noise levels, or just general comfort, such as our bedding. So when I say environment, I don't mean only the physical environment, but also the social or emotional component of the community here. So we have our shelter with different amenities, and we also have group support. So basically, answering the question, am I comfortable, or how am I feeling, can also be as important as what's the weather like. So one way we look at these environmental factors, especially the more social community ones, is looking at our responsibilities. These include our crew roles. So we rotate through different positions such as the chief scientist, chief engineer, and executive officer. There's a lot of reporting involved in the chief engineer and chief scientist positions. And then for the executive officer, we have to keep in touch with mission support. So there's a lot of email and interaction with Basecamp, which is our system for keeping in touch with mission support. Some of the data I'm collecting about these less physical aspects of the environment include the schedules of our responsibilities. So the deadlines for geology task reports, our officer reports, and also some of our mundane tasks, such as our cleaning schedules and cooking schedules. We also are tracking our shower usage, so hygiene is another impact of our environment as we have limited water resources for showering. But at different times we may have more or less ability to take showers depending on our water levels. To analyze the social aspect, I'm keeping track of our media consumption, so what movies and TV shows we're watching, and what nights we play board games, and who's participating in all of these activities. We can also look at our social interactions via our email and Voxer communications, both within the crew and outside with people on Earth. When we look at lifestyle choices, this is basically the quality, quantity, and consistency of our sleep, diet, and activity. To monitor our lifestyle choices, we're employing wearable devices such as the Jawbone Up wristband. This technology enables measurement of our movement, which quantifies our activity as well as our sleep quality. So how many steps are we taking each day, and how soundly are we sleeping, or are we waking up a lot and moving around throughout the night? We're all wearing our Jawbone wristbands 24/7. This is a huge amount of data that's being collected while we're on this 8-month mission. The first step in harnessing this data is interacting with the Jawbone Up application. I have some code that is publicly available on GitHub for harnessing detailed data from Jawbone wristbands. I've been storing this data in a custom database. You can see there's one table called Sleeps that has the identity information of all the sleep events. Then there's a sleep details table that explains more about the sleep phases throughout the night, sound sleep, light sleep, and awakenings. Then I have 2 other tables that are storing some of the measures I've developed for analyzing these data. One is a sleep quality table, which gives a quality score based on the timing of the sleep phases. And then there's also the awake penalty table, and this is basically quantifying the awakenings during the night and how much they should be penalizing the overall sleep quality score. The other component is our physiology. We can classify this as immune, metabolic, as well as endocrine. So our immune system is what's reacting to any insults or illness. Then our metabolism is trying to balance and keep a homeostasis in terms of our energy use and production. Endocrine systems are based on our hormones, and they upregulate or downregulate different systems, again, to keep a homeostasis or react to things in the environment. So the question to answer is about up and down regulation of these processes. One way to measure is to look at the inflammation or our immune response. Our digestion provides insight into our metabolism. Our appetite is regulated by our metabolism, but also by our endocrine systems, which have similar effects on our social desire. Let's briefly outline the processes underlying the physiology of stress. One of the first indicators of stress is elevated cortisol levels. This stress hormone initiates the well-known fight-or-flight response. The stress hormone cortisol also increases the blood glucose levels. This leads to inflammation, or a trigger of the immune responses. Some of the symptoms of this stage of the stress process include low digestion, high temperature, and low social desire. Once the cortisol levels cross an upper threshold, stress recovery mechanisms are initiated. These include inhibition of pro-inflammatory cytokines, as well as triggering of the endocannabinoid system. This restores appetite and social desire. To analyze the physiology of the crew and the stress levels we're experiencing throughout the duration of this mission, first I'm looking at cortisol, the stress hormone. I'm taking monthly hair samples and bi-monthly urine samples. Cortisol is part of the endocrine upregulation when experiencing stress. High levels of cortisol result in high blood sugar as well as cell damage. We can then measure some of the cell damage by looking at the biomarker acrolein. More specifically, we have to look at 3-HPMA since acrolein is hard to quantify on its own. It is one of the downstream metabolites of the oxidative stress that is one of the main processes of cell damage. To complement physiological analysis, I'm administering a weekly survey. It's much like the general health questionnaire and the perceived stress scale surveys that are common in the literature. This enables comparison of perception of stress with the reality of the physiology. The overall goal of this research is to improve health monitoring and stress management. If we can better detect our stress and better understand our stressors, then we can begin to intervene and develop technologies for mitigating the harmful effects of stress. Now for some concluding remarks. Let's talk about the challenges first before we move on and end on the benefits. One of the challenges is the energy production, which is largely impacted by the weather. Since we rely on solar, we have to budget and work around the restrictions of the weather. Another challenge is the waste management. We've taken care to measure the mass and volume of the recyclables and waste that we're producing in the kitchen. And we also are using composting toilets. These require a lot of maintenance and have been a surprisingly difficult part of the mission. In being in such close quarters, there's not a lot of privacy, so this is definitely a challenge, is to find time to get away and feel free and independent for a little while can be a difficult endeavor. I usually am on the treadmill when I feel the most relieved of this type of stress. And then of course with the confinement and the isolation, there's only 5 other people, so sometimes the personal dynamics can be a bit challenging. We are together all the time, and so you have to get used to being a close-knit family that never goes away for the weekend. As for some of the benefits, one is that we share our responsibilities. As a team, we work together to complete all of our mission tasks, and we rotate through different responsibilities, so it's really nice to have a high level of support. One of the other benefits is the task-oriented nature of this environment. We do have some distractions, but they're more limited. In general, we have a lot of resources, and mission support can provide us with whatever else we need. So here we really are able to focus on our work, and we're isolated from a lot of the distractions on Earth. Another benefit is the social activities. We have a lot of fun together as a group, and you're never really lonely because there's always someone who can have a few minutes to chat or take on a game of whatever board game you're feeling. So we do have a lot of social support here, which is always a positive. A final aspect that is very beneficial is the fitness here. We keep on a consistent workout schedule, and we're all in much better shape than when we started the mission. Well, I hope you've enjoyed your tour of Mars and Hawaii and gained some insight into our daily lives here. If you have any questions, email me at jocydunn2@gmail.com. Also, if you have any opportunities for outreach, please let me know. We love inspiring young students by the uniqueness of our situation here. And the mission continues until June 12th, so keep that in mind when you're planning any outreach activities. Well, thanks again for having me as part of Florida Space Institute's program today. And if you have any questions, like I said, email me. But until then, aloha!